Hello, this is Sarah, and this is another episode of How to Do Your Own Taxes. Thanks for joining us. Today we're going to talk about the main form every individual has to file when they do their taxes every year. And that form is called the 1040, Form 1040. Where you find that is the irs.gov website. Other places you can find it is you can call the IRS 800 number and tell them which one to send you. Go to the local post office. They do have that form and a few other forms, unless they run out, and they often do. You can also go to the local tax office. Obviously, if you have a computer, the easiest thing to do is to look it up on irs.gov. Any of the tax forms that the IRS wants you to fill out, you can put the form number and the form, whatever description is, right in here in the search box, and you will find it like that. We're going to go find a 1040 form right here. Now, when you do your taxes and it's all done, you can come back to this same page and click right here, click on your refund. You can also click over here about your refund. You can click here about free filing. Now, the way it is with free filing, this is the first year that the IRS has kind of gone together with quite a number of tax companies, H&R Block, a number of other online companies. The IRS is giving them money for doing your basic tax form, and the basic one is this 1040 form. But keep in mind that when you do that, if you have extra forms, you may be charged more for extra forms. So don't assume that all your whole taxes, filing your taxes, is going to be totally free. It may not be. And you don't even qualify for the free filing if you make over $58,000. So just keep that in mind. Here we go to the form right now, and you'll see right here, the first thing you do is your name and address and social security number, as always. The good thing to do is to just plain print out this form. The reason why I do this is I can make notes in the side. I do a rough draft of it first, and so I go down all, kind of fill it all in loosely, and then see what I need to find. If I have forgotten something or I need more information, then I've sort of loosely filled it in. The filing status, of course, is single or married or filing jointly. Exemptions is yourself and your spouse and your children's names or anybody who is dependent on you. The first big category here is, of course, your income. Income is any place that you get money from. Now, if you get any kind of form from any source that says this is income, it needs to show up on right here, because what the IRS does is they take the forms like the W-2 form, you put the amount of money right over there. Or if you got a 1099 form, they take those numbers and they add them all together. I mean, they kind of coordinate. If somebody said you make some money and you didn't report it, then not a good thing. They're going to now audit you, which is not a good idea. You don't want that. Taxable interest, that of course comes from places like banks or some places. Here's a little thing you need to watch out for. See, it says attach Schedule B if required. When you have somebody else do your taxes, sometimes they will file these schedules that are not required. Say on this taxable interest, if you didn't make at least $1,500 in taxable interest, you are not required to do this. And there are several different places like 4 or 5 on the tax form that you may not have to file because you didn't make enough money, but they will file it just because they can now charge you another $30. So just keep that in mind. If you had a house, a rental house, that information goes here. If you don't have any idea where it goes, put it right here under other income. Now you add all your income together and it goes right down here on line 22. Now the next big category section here is adjusted gross income. What is this? This is a bunch of different deductions that you get to take, which is called above the line deductions, if you ever hear that term. When you get all these deductions, that's what's called adjusted gross income. A lot of things are calculated on the adjusted gross income. AGI, if you come across that, those initials. you add all this up, put it over here, and deduct it from your income. Now it's going to be less than your total income, so it's adjusted gross income. Now the next page is tax and credits. This is where you figure out how much taxes you owe and any credits that hopefully you can qualify for. Here's the first big thing, and that is itemized deductions. Schedule A. Now you can choose to do a Schedule A or a standard deductions, and what that really means is that if you have, look on Schedule A and you'll see if you made a lot of contributions, if you had a high mortgage interest, if you had, or some other things that qualify, like a high medical, that would go on the Schedule A. However, for 2010, the standard deduction is $11,400. So it could be that it's less than that, so you just choose the standard deduction. If it's to your advantage and you all that added up to about $15,000 or $20,000, then obviously you do the Schedule A. The next exemptions, the exemption for each person is $3,650 for 2010. This changes every year. So if you had 4, that would end up being $14,600 deduction. So by the time you got the standard deduction here of $11,400, you would now have a deduction of $26,000. Now you go over to the tax table. Say you had $40,000 by the time you got to this line. So you go over to tax table and find $40,000 in married filing jointly, if that's what you were doing. Find how much taxes you owe. Well, that is your taxes. So that's what goes on this line 44. Now, unless you made over $72,000, you don't owe any of this alternative minimum tax, so you don't worry about that too much. Every year, this amount changes. For 2011, it's almost 75,000. All the numbers change. Some of the things don't change, but all the numbers change. The next section of this portion is very important, and that is a bunch of credits. What you want to do is get as many credits as possible. So what a credit means, suppose you have residential energy credit. Now remember, read every single line here so you can see if you qualify for any of these credits. Now suppose you had $500 for this residential energy credit. You put it right here. It goes here, but you get to deduct it from here. Suppose you owed $5,000. Now you only owe $4,500. And this is before you get to calculating how much you've already paid. Every single credit, this is where a lot of people just don't take them because they don't look at these little forms right here. If you don't put it down, you don't get it. The tax preparer, if you take him to some place, if you don't tell him, you don't have it. You get to take all that against your income tax, taxable income right there, and it comes down here is the total amount of taxes that you owe. Now there's a few other taxes that have to be added. A lot of people don't owe these, so it'll maybe apply to you. You will usually have gotten some sort of something in the mail unless you're self-employed, and then you know what this is, Schedule SE. Any of these other forms we will cover on a different video. You go down to the next big section. That's the amount of taxes you've already paid plus some additional credits. So if you got a W-2 or 1099 and you had already paid all these taxes, you'll put the amount of taxes you paid right here. You could have had making work pay credit. That's $800. Now it goes up to as much as $2,000 in 2011. These are acting just like tax payments. All these credits here, first-time home buyer's credit, that's acting like as a payment for taxes. And here's a lot of other forms. If you don't know what these forms are, you go back, you go right here, write down that number of that form, say Form 8802 or whatever it is. So you add up all of these credits. Additional child tax credit, many people qualify for that. American Opportunity Credit, that's an education credit. You add all those up, and so hopefully you're going to get a refund. Hopefully every year you will go through your tax form, compare it to last year's tax form. If there's a difference, if you go to the tax preparer, you need to have questions. Well, it's hard to have questions if you haven't read the tax form. Hope you get a good refund. Thanks for listening. Goodbye now.